Okay. So these are the five models that PMI has put that PMI reviewed their syllabus. That was last in 2021, 3 years now. 3 years ago, they reviewed the syllabus, they reviewed everything they've been talking about in the last 3 decades and say, you know what, we now need to restructure things. We now need to restructure things and focus more on the people. Don't forget, Prince 2 said people at the center. We've got people, practice, processes, principles, right, for Prince 2. But these guys are saying, yes, we need to talk about the process more now and the business. So that's why they've got these five different models saying, you know what, you have to create a high performing team. And that's one of the things we're talking about in chapter 6, saying that you have to get a leading team, leading effective teams. So they say, you know what, create a high performing team. When you create a high performing team, then you can start the project and you can now start doing the work. Don't forget, it's a team you've created that will do the work. Then you now need to make sure that you keep your team on track in order for you to have the business in mind. So, what are we talking about? What are the things you need to talk about whenever you want to create a high performing team? That means you need to build the team. You need to build a team. Then, how do you build a team? You build a team by one of the things that Ken said about, you know what, you have to, there is something we call forming, storming, numbing, performing, and adjourning. Those are the five team building processes that you can think about. The first one is forming, where you call people together to say, you know what, let's do this. Let's start. This is the work. This is the work we need to do, and all that. So you tell them that, you know what, this is the work we have. This is the work we have. That's what we need to do, and all that. You're forming a team. Then after that, you now need to move to the next stage. The next stage is called the storming stage. For the storming stage, here people are getting to now know what they need to do. At this point, that people are getting to know each other. So at this point, there will be conflict because don't forget the first stage, you're the one that created the first stage. You're bringing people together, you're forming a team. After you form the team, the next thing you now need to do is you now need to start doing what we call the storming stage. Storming stage, they're understanding what they need to do. You're telling them what they need to do. They are now saying, you know what, they need to work with other people. But at that point in time, you will agree with me that when we first started, the trust we have for each other wasn't really that strong. Or when we started the project, the trust we have for each other wasn't that strong. But by the time we got into it, first week, second week, third week, we started relating with each other very well. Don't forget, the first week we're still really, you know what, still very careful. I'm not sure how touchy that person is. I don't know what I would say that would get that person angry and all of that. That stage is what we call the storming stage. Okay. Now we're not moving to the numbing stage where we will start now knowing people better. We'll start knowing people better. That's a numbing stage. We start knowing everyone better. Okay, I know that person. I know how to relate with that person now. I know what the weak point of that person is. I know what makes that person get edgy, what makes that person get touchy, and all of that. You understand that. Then after that proper understanding, we can now go into performing the work. We now go into properly performing the work. Then after we've performed the work, we now go into what the work is done, all the project is done, everybody can now adjourn. Adjourn means what, you're moving on with life, moving on to another project, or moving on from whatever you're doing. So that's what we're saying, that you build a team. Then while you're trying to build a team within your project, as well as a project manager, you want to set the ground rules. You want to set the ground rules. And if you remember, the first day I told us about what are our ground rules. I told us about the ground rules to say, you know what, make sure you respect other people's views. Make sure you don't make jest of people. Let's raise our hands if we've got questions. When someone is talking, don't make sure you don't talk over the person. We spoke about those ground rules, right? So on your project as well, you quickly want to stop, you want to talk about those ground rules on your project. Then the next thing you now need to do is you want to negotiate project agreements. Project agreements can come in different forms. Don't forget you're creating a high performing team. So this person will tell you, I can only be on site 3 days a week. the other 2 days I've got my children, I don't have nanny, I don't have that, I need to do all of that. So you can see those are the kind of negotiation. You've got an agreement within the team. You're saying that, you know what, I need this guy to work on my project for 4 days, and you can go and work on the other project for 1 day and all that. Or yeah, I only need you for 1 day. You can go and do your own BAU activities for the next day. So as a project manager, you need to understand how to negotiate. Your negotiation skills should be really, really top notch, really, so that you can speak with operation manager, or speak with the team as well to negotiate their time properly to see how they will work with you properly. Or you're telling someone, you know what, day rate is 500, and that person say, you know what, I'm not coming down from 500 per day, 500 pounds per day, about coming down for 500 pounds per day, but you know your budget cannot cater for 500 pounds per day. You're telling the person, no, my budget cannot cater for that. What if I give you good reference after that? What if I tell you that, you know what, yes, this project is going to last for 2 years? What if I give you a 1 year contract as against the 3 months rolling contract and all that? And this person say, okay, yes, that's fine. If you're giving me a 1 year contract, I'll go with 400 pounds. Then that can cater for you. So you can see negotiate project agreement. All you're trying to do is just creating a high performing team. Then you now start empowering the team members and the stakeholders. You're empowering them to say, you know what, yes, guys, you've got opportunity to define what you want to do within that team. Yes, you know what, you need a training, on communication skills as a team member. Yes, I will do that. I will support you, I will empower you. You need to go for that training and all that. So these are things you need to start doing as well as a project manager if you really want to create a high performing team. Because don't forget, the success of the team will determine the success of your project. Because don't forget, as a project manager, you're not technically inclined. What you're just doing is you're managing the team. So leading the team, you're managing the team. And that's why you need to make sure that you're doing that. Train team members, empowerment, training, both really, they're almost the same thing. You're empowering them with their rights, you're empowering them with what they can do, that they don't need to come to you. And also you're training them, you're mentoring them, you're training them on how to do things as well. Engage and support virtual teams. In the age of COVID now, we now have virtual team members. One of what a typical example is a project I'm working on at the moment. I've been working with some people for the last 1 year and 3 months, 1 year and 4 months, and I can tell you that I've not seen 70% of my team before, except for when I went to Monaco. That was when I saw some of the team members. But the team in France, the team in Porto, the team in Angola, the team in Skidan, the team in Mumbai, I've not seen them before. You get, the only team I've seen are the ones in Monaco, and yet I relate with these people every day. I've got team members that are working within my team as well, that they are in Mumbai, they are in France, and I need to make sure I support them, I engage them on a daily basis. That one of the rules in my office, one of the rules for my team is, you know what, if I ask for your video call, you can't tell me you can't do video call now. Make sure you're always available. But I will tell you first that, you know what, do you have 5 minutes for if do you have five, you have can I call you in the next 5 minutes for a video call and all that? So, you know, it's just a way of engaging, it's a way of supporting. And you will think sometimes when we talk, you will think, you know what, we're always collocated in a place before, or we're always seeing each other, because we've created that environment where, you know, we can share things, we can talk, we can support the team. It's all about creating a high performing team. And as a project manager, this is your job to make sure that that is being done. I'm not sure who mentioned that, you know what, during their presentation, and I'll talk about that. I'll talk about that very soon as well. Build and share understanding about a project. Build and share understanding about the project. Don't make assumption that this person, you know, understands what the project is all about. Trust me, I've worked on the project for 8 months, and you know what, I've got no clue of what that project was going to deliver. But I know that I was doing my job. I was doing my job as a planner. I was getting all the plans. I was developing all the plans. I was working with the project managers to develop all the plans. But what that project is really, really delivering, or the backstory, what the project is really delivering, you know what, I wasn't just interested in what Salesforce, or it wasn't sales, it was MS Dynamics. What MS Dynamics was gonna develop, was gonna do, and all that. all the R to R, the report to record, the source to pay, and all that. I was not just interested in that. So and it was funny that I didn't mean I showed interest in that. That would have helped me on another project I worked on recently. And I had to now start doing that study all over again to actually understand, okay, what exactly is O2C, what is T2C, what is P2P, what is SCM and all that. And I need to start thinking about all of that again. I was like, oh, how I wish I knew what this is. I would have been just bamboozling everyone with all of those terms down and proper understanding. So please build and share understanding about the project. Try and whenever you're on a project, try and understand the in-depth of that project. So after you've done that, one of the things you now need to do, don't forget, you now have a team. You now have a team you've created. You're creating a high-performing team. You now need to start doing all of these things that we've spoken about before. You now need to determine appropriate project. Okay, what exactly is a project we want to work on? What exactly is that project? What have we done the business case? Are we sure that this particular project is viable, is feasible? Are we sure that we'll realize benefit in these? We need to understand what exactly is appropriate project methodology or methods or practices we need to use. Okay, we now talk about let's plan and manage the scope of work. Okay, how do we plan and manage that? We're able to deploy our Office 365 on the 140 laptops. We start managing, plan and manage budget and resources. That's where our estimation comes in. And not sure who was talking about. It was Angela that was telling us about planning, things she did about planning and all that, assigning resources to your activities, defining your activities, and also assigning activity resources to your activities. These are things you do whenever you want to start your project. You plan and manage your schedule. You plan and manage your quality of product and deliverables. Then after you've done all of that, you integrate all of the project planning activities together. Then you plan procurement. Don't forget, I told us that Prince2 is quite silent about procurement. Meanwhile, PMBOK is very, very eloquent or outspoken when it comes to procurement. So that's why you're seeing it here. To say procurement is just telling us, you know what, how do we make sure that the resources we need to procure, we're procuring it? How do we make sure that project manager is involved in all of those contracts? What exactly is the kind of contract we need to, are we using time and material? Are we using cost fixed contract? Are we using cost reimbursable contract? Are we using cost plus fixed fee contract? Different types of contract you can think about. But if, as a project manager, trust me, you're not really expected to understand those, to get involved in those contracts, but have a proper understanding of what those contracts could mean. That is what we're saying. You're not going to get involved. We'll definitely leave that to procurement manager or supply chain manager to undo all of those procurement. Then you now establish your project governance and structure. I told us these are one of the practices that Prince2 spoke about. So we'll definitely talk about that later on. Then you now need to talk about how you want to plan and manage a phase of a project or of your project. Sorry, if you're raising your hand or you are talking, I might not be able to see you. So let me put myself in order properly. Okay. So that is that whenever you're starting a project, then we're not going into doing the work. Okay. We're not going into doing the work. So whenever you're starting the project, what you're just talking about is put a plan in place. Create that team, put a proper plan in place, all of these, and that's why you can see most of the things you're seeing on this particular slide is plan, manage, plan, manage, plan, manage, plan, manage, plan, manage, plan, manage, meaning you need to plan, you need to choose the appropriate methodologies you want to use. You have to plan how you want to manage the scope. You have to plan how you want to manage your budget and resources on this particular project. So you've got your strategies out. You want to plan how you want to manage your schedule. You want to plan and manage how you want to manage quality on this particular project. Or how do we handle quality? What is the QA procedures we need to go for? What are the acceptance criteria? So that's why you can see everything you're seeing here is all about starting a project. What are the things we need to put in place as a project manager in order for you to start the project? The next thing you now need to talk about is doing the work, doing that work. Whenever we want to do the work, what do? We're not on the project has commenced. As a project manager, what do you now need to start doing? You need to assess and manage risk. We'll talk about that. Assess and manage risk. Execute project to deliver business value. Now you're now doing the work in order for you to deliver business values that you add in your business case or that you have in your business case, to now develop that benefits, to now deliver those benefits you have in your business case. While you're doing that, you now need to manage communications. Don't forget, who can remember, I said a project manager spends how much of its time communicating? What percentage of a project manager's time is spent on communication? Who can remember? You can type. What happened? Has everybody gone to sleep? Okay, I said, you know what? Studies shows that 90% of a project manager's time, 95%, all right, yeah, 90% of project manager's time is spent communicating. So you can see manage communications. We need to manage communications. You have to develop a communication management strategy. How do we manage communication? Who needs to know what? How do we communicate to this person via email, via phone calls, via text messages? How often do we need to communicate to this person? Bi-weekly, every day, once a week, and all that. So that is what we're talking about, managing communications. Then the next thing is engaging stakeholders. We'll talk about stakeholders engagement as well as a proper model. Then you now need to create what we call the project artifacts. So the project artifact are the things you created here, So these are all project artifacts, your scope management plan, your budget and resources management plan, your schedule management plan. These are all artifacts. And as you proceed on the project as well, you'll be creating loads of artifacts as well. Your milestone report is an artifact. Your business case is an artifact. So artifacts are the documents that you're getting out of a project, more like more like an actual documentation that you're getting out of your project. Then you now need to start managing project changes. Okay, we spoke about that already as well. While you're assessing and managing risk, you also want to manage and assess project issues as well. And we spoke about ensuring KT to project continuity. KT are things we call lessons learned as well. It's called knowledge transfer. You need to make sure that knowledge are getting transferred. A guy is moving from the project to another project, or a guy is moving, is done with the work. You want to make sure that you sit this person down and say, what are the things you did on this project? If someone should come tomorrow and wants to pick this thing up, how will the person survive? So more like your handover note. Okay, that's what we call the knowledge transfer, handover note. You want to make sure that all of this thing is documented. There is something we always say in the UK as a joke to say, if you get knocked down by a boss tomorrow, can someone else pick this work and continue working without everything falling apart? Okay, so as a project manager, you want to make sure that you guide against such. Okay, that if and contractors are fond of doing these things. A contractor can go and pick up a job somewhere else tomorrow, and it will tell them that yeah, I'm available to start immediately. Meanwhile, in their contract, they've got 2 weeks or they've got 1 month notice to give. But I've seen couple of people doing that, and I don't really encourage that. They'll just wake up one day and just send an email to their manager and say, you know what, I'm feeling sick today. I don't think I want to come back to work. I've seen few people doing that. They just say, you know what, maybe they've gotten a better offer somewhere else, so they want to go to that place. And you're leaving the project manager hanging, because who's going to pick up that work? All the work you've been working, all the documentation you've been working on, they've been on your local drive. They are not even stored on the shared drive or SharePoint. So here comes a project manager lost. So as a project manager, you want to guard against this. You want to make sure that, you know what, if someone should get knocked down by a boss tomorrow, someone else can pick that job and nothing will happen. Okay. So that is what we call, that's what we're saying, that ensure knowledge transfer to project for project continuity. Now, as a project manager, one of your key tasks is to make sure that you are keeping the team on track. Okay, keeping the team on track, leading the team. That's what chapter 6 spoke about, leading the team. You want to lead a team. You want to support team performance. You want to make sure that they are performing when you're supporting them. As an agile delivery manager, this is one thing you want to do, support the team performance. Make sure you lead a team. Address and remove impediments, obstacles, and blockers. As an ADM, or a project manager, you want to make sure that you address or remove impediment. This is the job of a scrum master as well, removing impediment and obstacles and blockers. And you want to manage conflicts. There will always be conflict. Don't forget that people are working from different cultural background, different, the gender is different. They've got different backgrounds as well. They've got different countries they're working from. Conflicts are always bound to happen. Okay, even twins that were raised from the same house and all that, there will always be conflict. Okay. As a project manager, you want to make sure that you're killing every form of conflict and you're not taking sides. That is one thing you need to make sure you do as a project manager. And everything we're talking about has to do with, has to do with your emotional intelligence, your EI. And that's why I say, I'll talk about EI later. Everything we've been talking about has to do with your emotional intelligence. As a project manager, you have to be top notch. You have to be up there. You have to be considerate whenever you're talking to people. You have to promote team performance. You have to support team performance. You have to make sure you're addressing and removing impediment. You have to make sure you're managing conflict. You have to make sure you're mentoring people, mentoring relevant stakeholders, and collaborating with other stakeholders. So keeping your team on track is very, very critical. And these 6 points or 7 points are things that will definitely help you in order to keep the team on track. Keep the business in mind. PMBOK say, while you're doing all of this, you have to make sure that you keep the business in mind as a project manager. You have to manage compliance requirements. You have to make sure you evaluate and deliver project benefits and values. Don't forget that is exactly what the project is all about. The project is all about you managing the people to make sure that you deliver the benefits and the value of the project. And also you have to make sure that you evaluate and address internal and external business environment changes. Laws are changing, policies are changing. You want to make sure that you keep abreast of all of these, and that is not affecting the delivery of your project values. Then you need to support organizational change as well. Within the organization, don't forget what we spoke about was business environment changes. Within the organization, things will change. A CEO, like I just spoke about, Albert Igwe died. A new lady got appointed. The style of a new lady might be different from Albert Igwe's kind of stuff. So you can see you have to make sure that organizational changes will happen. People will get moved from one place to another. You have to make sure that you're supporting that as well. You're not whinging, you're not fighting against it as a project manager. And also you want to employ continuous improvement. You want to make sure that, the project, everyone is getting improved. The project is improving as well. You're not saying, we've done it once, whatever wants to happen, let it happen. You're making sure it's a continuous improvement, it's a continuous work that you're doing. And this is, aligned to that. The domain is aligned to this. For the people, you want to manage conflict, you want to lead a team, you want to do team building, you want to collaborate, you want to mentor relevant stakeholders. Then for the processes are what we spoke about: managing plans, managing your resources, managing your scope, establishing project governance, and also transferring knowledge, and also ensuring the business environment, managing compliance, delivering project benefits, evaluate changes for impact on scope support and organizational support. And these are the 3 key things that PMBOK spoke about, that as a project manager, you should be able to manage every of these. And that's why, like we said, people is the first, process is next, and the business environment. So you want to make sure that people are well managed. Questions, please. Question from anybody?
Hello, Ayo.
Hi, IJ.
So, what I get from all this now, it means that the work of the project manager is intertwined with what the Scrum Master does.
Yes, yes. Like I said, I don't want to get into trouble of Scrum Masters, really. They will tell you, no, what we do is different from what a project manager is doing. But trust me, it is intertwined. Yes.
But don't we have situation where we have the project manager and the Scrum Master in the same project, and the project manager is the one project managing the project, and the Scrum Master is the one, like, facilitating the meetings.
You rarely get things like that. Okay.
Okay,
Because the
okay,
moment you have a project manager, then you're conditioned to say, we're using a waterfall approach here. The moment you have a Scrum Master, you're conditioned to say, we're using an agile approach here. Okay. So I've worked on a project before. I won't lie to you. I've worked on a project. I've worked on a project 3 years ago. 3 years ago, we were trying to deploy Salesforce. We're trying to deploy Salesforce for a financial or institution in central London, in the city. And they had project managers, and also they had Scrum Masters. Trust me, it was cumbersome to the extent that they had to let most of the Scrum Masters go at the end of the day. Okay.
so yeah, but so in a situation where you have, okay, we have ADMs
Yes.
and we have Scrum Masters in an agile environment. So the ADMs are like the project managers. And
They have the project managers, and most times, in what I have seen in the past, and thanks for me, in what I have seen in the past, the ADM are they are always handling Scrum of Scrum.
okay. So
Okay.
they are like when there are so many projects on ground, and they
Exactly.
have
When you
different
have,
Scrum Masters, and
yes,
then they are the one overseeing all the Scrum
all the
teams.
Scrum Masters, definitely. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, they're
okay,
overseeing their Scrum of Scrum. And
okay,
What Fumi said now, we've got project manager and SM role where they just want a singular person who is a project manager that can switch from both agile and then
yeah,
that can switch from waterfall and switch into agile. You get, but to now say,
okay,
I want a project manager and I need another Scrum Master, it doesn't really work. Like I said, I worked in that particular environment before, and at the end of the day, we
okay,
just have to sit down and let all the Scrum Master go, because we could see that the project manager could actually do what we brought in the Scrum Masters to do.
okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question from anybody? Tommy, go ahead, please.
Hi, thank you so much for the knowledge you've imparted so far. I was just wondering, when you were talking about a PM making sure the team members cooperate to deliver what they need to do,
Yes.
and what if you have I'm assuming that in waterfall, a product owner would be
A
a
business
project.
analyst. That's a business analyst. A product owner is a business analyst in waterfall environment. Tommy, are you speaking? If you're speaking, we've lost you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I was just wondering because so when the mandate comes, the PM knows the mandate is.
Oh, something is wrong with your connection. Oh, she's dropped. She's back.
Sorry, my line is really bad. I was
That's
just
okay.
wondering, so in waterfall environment, we don't
Yes.
really have someone that is like a product owner. So it's just a business analyst and a PM, then the
Yeah, because don't forget a product owner. What is the job of a product owner, Tommy?
so basically like more like the product manager, they owns the product, they know what the requirement is on high.
That's the job. That's the job of a business analyst.
Right.
So a
Okay.
business analyst is there to elicit the requirement. The business analyst is the one that goes round the organization to go and collect whether it is a functional requirement, whether it is non-functional requirement, whether it is business requirement, they go around to collect all of that requirement, and that's what they call elicitation. They elicit that requirement, they try to put it in a fine, whatever. And after all of this is done, they now relate to the sponsor to say, or to the client to say, are these truly the requirement you said you want for your product? They've gathered everything. They now take that requirement to the people that will design, to the solution architect and all of that. So the solution architect will design, go back to the business analyst to say, is it in line with the requirements you've documented? Okay. And they say, yes, it's in line with what we've documented. Okay. Goes back to the client to say, okay, yes, they've designed it. The solution architect have designed what your requirements are. And you've got your requirement traceability matrix with you, and you're checking it to say, yes, check. When that is approved again, to say, yeah, this is truly the design of all the requirement that the business analyst gathered, then we can now take it to the DevOps or to the guys that will build. Then they build it. The person that is coordinating all of these processes is a project manager. Does that make sense to yourself, Tommy?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So he coordinates that. The DevOps or whatever they have, the developers, they build these. The testers are testing and doing all of that. After the testing, we go back to the client to say, okay, so the project manager and the business analyst will go back to the client to say, based on the requirements gathered, based on the design that you approved, this is what has been built. It's been tested, no defects, no bugs and all of that. Are we in line? Yes, we're in line, approved, then let's deploy.
Okay. So what if the project sponsor is lacking? So what I mean by that is, for example, when the BA is done what they need to do and they take the requirement to him or her to maybe approve or just make sure everything has been captured.
Yeah.
But they're not always available as they should.
So this is where that governance we spoke about. Remember, I remember one of the things we spoke about is established governance. Where's that? You can see established project governance. This is where it is. Establishing project governance is what is called your steering committee or your project board. Okay, your steering committee or your project board is that board that has got your client on there that needs to approve whatever it is. So for me, my project board, my steering committee met this morning. We met this morning for 2 hours on my project. It's always once a month. And this is because of how busy those guys are. They are directors within the organization. Okay, within the organization, they are big boys. They are vice president and director. So I will not always get them. So everything, I've planned everything to say, you know what, it's once a month. I'm coming to meet you once a month. But if there's an impromptu thing that we need to do, then I can call an impromptu project board or call the ad hoc project board to say, you know, we need to discuss this. We need to approve this, because if we don't approve this now, we will get into the project freeze, into the business freeze period. And if we get into the business freeze period, that means we'll be delayed by 1 month. So I need your approval so that we can push the code in ASAP by next week and all that. Because if I wait till the next project board, I will miss that slot. So you can see, because they know the criticality of that project, they will always want to make themselves available as well at some point. And if they are not available, and that's why your project board cannot be one person. You get, is always a number of people that, you know, if that person is not there, yes, the rest people can give approval as well.
Right.
And that's what we call the project governance. So you want to make sure that a proper project governance is put in place. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Then the last question, sorry. So is it possible? Is it possible to be on a project? Yeah. They didn't adopt Scrum or Agile methodology. They clearly said it that there's no methodology, but we don't have a project manager. Is that possible?
They don't have a methodology at all. That's impossible. They will always have a methodology. And the default methodology is always waterfall. Okay.
Yeah. So I did it. That's what I thought. But when they say, okay, we don't have a project manager, but we have a project ongoing. So I'm thinking.
So we don't have a project. I mean, we don't have a project manager, but we have a project ongoing. Who can remember that kind of an organization? I spoke about these. Who can remember? I spoke about this already. That is a functional type of an organization. Remember, I spoke about functional, matrix, and projectized. You can remember that. Okay, interesting. That is a functional type of organization. Okay, where you know what, we're carrying out the work, but we don't have a project manager. We're just picking up that accountant because it's a finance project. We just pick up accountant Ken to handle the work, to go and handle the work, to lead the work. He's not a project manager, he's an accountant. Do you understand? But because the project we want to deliver is an accounting kind of project, we're just saying, can you please lead that project? Just coordinate people. That is a functional type of organization. But in a projectized organization, in a strong matrix, we'll always have a project manager to handle those work. I don't know why people want to do that, because the moment you appoint a project manager, a project becomes easy to run and all that. Okay. And yes, Adenike said, I have experience, no project manager, but a technical delivery manager. All she does is same with a PM. Exactly. If for that particular organization, they just have a different nomenclature, because when you look into it in detail, even the team that say we have a project, but we don't have a project manager, when you look into it very well, you will see that, you know what, that person, it's a project manager, only that is he or she is not carrying that portfolio on their head as a project manager or a scrum master. Okay, does that have I answered your question to you?
Yes, you did. Thank you very much.
Okay, good stuff. Any other question from anybody? Go ahead, Ken.
Hi, I have a question which is not really related to what we discussed today. Is that okay to ask?
Please go ahead.
Okay, so right, so I've got I work with a very mature team. So in the sense that there's different teams all working from working to working on the same product, but we're working on different phases of the build. Okay. And I've joined the team newly, so I came in with my team to join the team. But they do have a Scrum of Scrum. But what I was really concerned was that I've been asked to head the Scrum of Scrum as a chief Scrum. What I found was that the Scrum of Scrum doesn't really run the way it should. So coming in as the chief Scrum, how do I institute a more functional way of us reporting, or for the team being able to report the the purpose of Scrum of Scrum is for us to be able to unblock interdependencies and blockers, and also be able to reach out to other team members who may also be able to help. But the team has about 78 team members who attend the Scrum of Scrum, including the developers and things like that.
78.
So how do you? Yes,
Whoa.
It's about the team is in total we are 124.
Okay.
And it is a very mature team. So the team has been working on the products for the last 6 years. So you have people who've been in the products for
from my head now, what I'm beginning to think is you need to create a new ceremony. Okay. And that new ceremony is going to have just the Scrum Masters only. So the Scrum Masters, we come with the impediment they've gathered from their own stand-ups on that day. Okay. So I'm sure you expect each of the sprints to have their own stand-ups.
Correct. Yes.
The Scrum Master for each of those are bringing their impediment, they are bringing their dependencies and all of that, and you are not having that meeting with them. You can carry on with the normal early morning ceremony that you do with the 78 people, but I want to agree with you that you won't get the best out of that.
Correct, because I think that's what I've been trying to brainstorm with
Yes.
the lead. But
Go
he
ahead with
said,
that, but you need to create a different ceremony now. And that ceremony is you strictly speaking with those Scrum Masters and bringing their own, it's 15 minutes or is it 30 minutes of saying, guys, on your own sprint, what's happening? What are the impediments? What are the dependencies you want to think about and all that? Okay. So you're developing a different ceremony to just attack or to just address things that are happening with that. And if you can do this for 3 to 4 times, you will see that the coordination at the upper level will be more better in my sense, because the Scrum Master will not make sure that enough information is gathered within their own Scrum team before coming to you to have that discussion. And so whenever I have that full house is now your headache to now say, based on what we discussed, Scrum sprint ABC is having dependency on CDE or DEF and all that. So that's what you're discussing. And I think your Scrum of Scrum meeting should really focus more on dependencies more.
yeah, okay.
Okay?
All right. Thank you.
I saw your hand up, Adenike, earlier.
I just wanted to ask a question, but he clarified it when he was talking, because I was just confused. Like 78 people in daily stand-up every day sounds a bit too much, but I figured out what he was trying to say.
Actually, some teams do, like one of the teams has 28 to 30 team members.
Are you talking about daily stand-up or just the Scrum of Scrum?
Yes, on the daily stand-up. A daily stand-up is almost an hour.
Almost an hour.
No, so I think you kind of need to restructure the team, because
you guys need to switch. You guys need to switch to waterfall then.
I think that I think you said something about structured, unstructured themes, right? So yeah, I think it's an experience that I could share if that's okay. Especially for people who would end up being like an ATM. So what I found was that it is a very mature team in terms of the skill set within the team is highly technical. And so what I found was that some of the teams have something like close to like let's say 15 developers, 5 to 6 developers, and close to like 10 testers within that team. And then I think they have 1 or 2 BAs. So it is a very there's more of like UI and backend testing, heavy on backend testing as well, on the core work we're doing. So it is a test. It's almost like a testing team. I think that's why they have a massive amount of people working on the backend.
How long is your sprint?
It's a fortnight, 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yes, 2 weekly sprints.
In the last sorry guys, some of those questions might be boring to everyone. In the last 2 sprints, how many stories get covered within the sprint?
Right. So we do take in that's what I'm saying. It is quite it's quite awkward in terms that they do take in epic stories, and those epic stories are now being worked on by different testers who would now create test cases and script for them.
So when you say different testers, so does that mean that those different testers are not within the Scrum team?
They are within the Scrum team.
Okay. Yeah, you need to restructure this. Yeah, you need to speak to them to restructure. And
yes.
Okay. My next question, after asking how many user stories were done within those sprints, how many were delivered? How many shippable product did you have after each of those sprints?
Right. So from the velocity that I worked out, they were only for the 7 epic stories that they took into the sprint. And
Okay.
I think they're lucky to complete 2.
Yeah, that's it. So this is part of what we're talking about, lessons learned. So if for 3 sprints you said you put in 7 user epic stories or user stories, and at the end of the day you were only able to come. Yeah, Nika is saying no, and you're able to just and you're able to only complete 2, then you
Yes.
really want to rejig your backlog and just say, you know what, all your sprint
Yeah.
planning needs to now be proper. Sprint planning needs to be reviewed. What exactly are we
Yeah.
doing in our sprint planning?
Yes, I do agree. I think the problem we're having is that, so I've been brought in to help to restructure, the, the processes and the
Yeah,
team.
yeah,
The resistance is, the resistance is out of this world.
it will be.
Um,
It will be.
yeah, the resistance is out of this world.
It will be.
Um, But I think also, I kind of agree with someone who said they're more of a waterfall, because
Mm,
although they have sprints and they have build,
mm,
there are no existing structures. And the
mm,
Scrum Masters, the team, I think the youngest person in the team has been there for 2 years.
okay.
And the project has been running for 6 years, and people
Yeah,
who have been there for 6 years. So
yeah.
I think they're just kind of engroove in the way of working and
Mm,
having a new way of working. So like I've said to them that streamline we need to streamline the Scrum of Scrum,
yeah.
because we can't really have we can't keep to an agenda, and
Mm,
we can't document what everyone is saying. If we have 60 something people making comments, there's no way we're going to be able to track all of that.
mm,
It's something that um something like one of the line managers has agreed, but we have other 2 line managers who think that the Scrum of Scrum is also an opportunity for everyone to have a say. So
mm.
it is quite contradicting, to say the least.
Interesting, interesting. You've got your work cut out for yourself, Ken, in there. If you need any support, you can always reach out. Okay. And that's one of
Okay.
the first points they said here: determine appropriate project methodology, methods, and practices. And I think you might need to revisit that within your project to make sure that you know what exactly are we doing. You
Yeah,
get
yeah,
and start streamlining that process for them. If they are still adamant that yes, let's do the agile way, then we need to understand, okay, what exactly do we need to start going now? Your sprint planning, I will emphasize sprint planning again. Your sprint planning needs to be top notch to make sure that you're not just packing epic stories or user stories into your sprints that will not get delivered or get shipped at the end of the day.
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And they're quite cagey with your metrics.
Mm,
Yeah. Mm.
okay.
So yeah.
Oh,
Well,
that's an interesting. Thanks for sharing that challenge with us.
yeah, yeah. Why I'm saying this is that um, sometimes things don't go as orthodox as, we tend to hope that this is what is going to be in place when we go into a workplace. Sometimes you have the opposite, and, you have to be able to to dig in, deep, and
Mm,
try and say, right, this is
mm,
what I think works. And you put a stand to it and say, right, we need to do it this way, as an ADM or as a PM,
mm,
is something that might help.
mm. Awesome, awesome. Thanks for sharing. Anything from anyone else tonight? Anything from anybody? Okay, so next, you've got 2 weeks. You've got 2 weeks break now. We're not meeting next week, but for what I said I was gonna give you some work to do for next week. Okay, so let's do this for next week. For next week, I want us to. I've got this guy here. Where are you? Okay, I've got this guy. If you can do a screen grab of this, that'll be fine. If you can take a picture of these. I want one slide each explaining what all of these are. So that means you've got 8 slides to produce. One slide each to talk about risk, assumptions, change, issue, action, constraint, management, and dependency. Okay, you can also submit that to Olawumi for me. So I will expect to see that on Thursday to be submitted on by 11 o'clock on Thursday. Yeah, so you can use a time. You can use the time we're supposed to be together to work on that. So by 11 o'clock on Thursday, I would definitely be accepting that from Olawumi. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Like I said, don't wait for me next week. I won't be here. And we can talk later. Okay? It's been nice talking with you all. And see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, Ayo.
All right, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.